October, the month of spooks, scares, and all things of the nature. The time to shit your pants and stay up too late, both from fear and sugar rush. But deep below all the horror films and horror games lies a section of the horror genre known to less, and even that has its own deep recesses of unknown material. I am, of course, referring to internet horror web series.
Hey, can you not scream in your backyard at 11 at night, please? My kid's trying to sleep.
Sorry. Hello, everybody. The Thorn Potato here. Internet horror web series. It's a subsection of the horror genre that doesn't really get talked about nearly as much as it really should. Yeah, there are the ones everyone knows, like Marble Hornets and Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, or for more recent examples, stuff like FNAF VHS and the Walton Files, but for the most part, unless you're an avid viewer of YouTubers like Nexpo and Nightmind, these things tend to duck under the radar. And that really sucks, because some of these things are really fucking amazing. Unfiction projects and ARGs are some really fun things to look into, and I highly recommend you check some out if you're a big horror buff. And to help you start on that journey, allow me to present one that feels like a nice starting ground for things like this. No Through Road is a 4-part unfiction horror series on YouTube from the late 2000s, and is, in my personal opinion, a great entry point for people trying to get into internet horror. It's not terribly long, only clocking in at maybe half an hour, and the mystery isn't terribly difficult to follow or figure out, but despite that, it manages to just be a really solid horror series. Now, one thing I will say is that even though I'm about to explain literally everything that happens, I would highly recommend you go watch it. I've linked a playlist in the description, and if you're on a TV, then you can search it up. But please do check it out and then return here. It's okay, I'm fine with waiting. Done? Or I just don't care? Alright then, let's get to it. This is No Through Road. The series opens on some strange screens before text. This text tells us that the footage we are about to see was found on a camcorder that was in a car with 4 dead 17-year-olds. The footage is being released by the UK intelligence agency with the consent of the families to help aid in the investigation. Now, I know it's weird to praise something within literally the first 30 seconds, but this is a great introduction. It sets the tone, tells us what we're seeing, and gives us a logical reason for why we're seeing it at all. Great way to start. We then move on to actual footage. It's just 4 guys in a car, hanging out, making jokes, just having a good time. And it feels organic. This doesn't feel like 4 guys acting, pretending to have a good time. It feels like 4 guys actually having a good time, to the point where I wonder if none of it was even scripted and they just recorded themselves fucking around in the car. After a bit of this, though, they come across a tunnel with a sign on front that says No Through Road. They, however, being dumb teenagers and horror protagonists, choose to ignore this sign completely and go through the tunnel anyway, which, as you can infer due to the series title, was a terrible idea. As they pass through this road, they see a sign for Bennington, a small town in England that shouldn't be near where they live. They're confused, but continue on. It's not until about an hour later that they finally admit they're lost. They find a dead rabbit on the side of the road, and then continue driving. They stop for a moment to try and figure out where they are since their GPS has also stopped working, when one of the 4, Stephen, sees something, panics, climbs back in the car, and tells them to drive. When asked about it, he claims he saw a man with a mask. Then, suddenly, they see something. They see a sign for Bennington. The same sign for Bennington. They've gone in a circle. Fuck. They keep on driving, but they just loop around back to the sign again. They try to turn the radio on to calm their nerves with some music, but all that plays is a single, terrifying song. They turn it off and keep going. But then, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. They see another car after like an hour and a half of nothing. Then they see a sign for their hometown. That all of a sudden, out of that nightmare, it's done. Then, the headlights go out. That's weird, but hey, they come back on in a second and...
Turn the lights on.
What the fuck?
How did we get here? We were just on the phone.
Just reverse, Ollie. Reverse, go on.
What do we do?
The car is also suddenly dead. Then, as if on cue, it bursts to life. The lights come on, and we see the masked man standing there, as the radio turns itself on and begins playing that same creepy song from earlier. The masked man kills all 4 of them, even going as far as smashing one of their faces in with the camcorder. We then get a screen simply saying to contact the authorities if you have any info, as the first episode comes to a close. Episode 2 sets a completely different tone immediately. A screen that simply says, "This footage has been released without consent." We aren't watching released footage to help solve a murder anymore. We don't know who's distributing this now, or why. But what we do know is that whatever happened, we're not supposed to be seeing it. We get a long clip of somebody driving as they listen to music before we finally get to see who it was. It's James, one of the 4 people from episode 1, and he's seemingly come with another friend, Dave, to pay memorial to his dead friends. James managed to barely survive the encounter that night, which happened 3 years before. And he states that he doesn't even know how he lived. He just remembers waking up in the hospital. This does raise a question, though. If James got out alive, how are there still 4 bodies in the car? Anyway, we cut to them at nighttime. I couldn't exactly tell what they said here, but I think James says something about Doctor Who before they realize that they don't know where they are. And before they know it, they're back on the road with the Bennington sign. The footage glitches out a bit as they try to decide what to do, but they end up just trying to drive on. They however end up looping back around to the sign even faster than normal and stop to try and collect their thoughts. As they do, though, we see someone pass behind the car. The camera cuts to a different angle before... Ah! Shit! Thankfully, it's not the masked man, but rather it's Steven, another one of the guys from the last video. His face is covered in blood, and he thinks it's only been 3 hours, even though it's been 3 years. We cut again and see that Steven's crying, and none of them have any clue what to do anymore. The tape ends, and we get a screen saying that it was apparently found in a case with the camcorder, and that there was another tape inside the camcorder. Episode 3 is only 2.5 minutes long, and is full of video tearing and audio distortion. We're told it's the tape from inside the camera, and we then see a long while of them driving before James's phone rings. He picks it up, but no one's on the other end. They loop back to the sign again. They try turning right, but to no avail. And when they loop back again... Jesus Christ! Oh shit, it's the dude! They contemplate what to do for a moment before Steven chips in his idea.
Drive.
They attempt to run him down. The footage corrupts. They suddenly reappear in front of the tunnel. They drive back in because they haven't realized what's happening yet, and then the car crashes. And we end the video when a strange symbol appeared. Episode 4 begins with one last text screen. The remaining footage from the damaged tape. We see them attempting to get the car on after the crash, but no matter what, they can't get it to start. Steven is asked where the blood on him came from, and he very ominously comments that he doesn't think it's his blood. They walk around a bit before finding themselves in a strange building with a bunch of ritual materials and such. They find 2 masks on a table and then 6 more. They leave, but quickly duck behind their crashed car when they see the masked man. He's stood in front of the tunnel when a car pulls up. Its headlights come on, a familiar song starts playing, and we hear screaming. Familiar screaming. It's them. It's the 4 of them from episode 1. James reveals that he took one of the masks from that shack. He puts it on and then runs in to save his past self. As if it couldn't get any fucking weirder from here, Steven claims he's apparently done this before and that he can stop it. He tells Dave to stay put since he was never a part of this, and then he pulls out a mask he stole, puts it on, and leaves. Dave, however, decides to ignore Steven's advice and runs in to see what's happening. He sees Pastor James pick up the camera and say what he said in episode 1 before future James knocks his past self out and drags him away, explaining how he managed to survive. Past Steven then gets the camera, but then future Steven shows up and beats his past self to death with the camcorder. His past self's blood gets on him too, meaning that although it was his past self, the blood still technically wasn't his. Maybe it technically still was. Time travel is weird. Anyways, future Steven takes his mask off, realizing what he's done, and runs off, seemingly where he goes on to get caught in the time loop again and reappear in episode 2 3 hours later. Dave tries to call after him, but then he turns around and the original masked man is standing right in front of him. The tape cuts and No Through Road comes to a close. So, that was pretty crazy, huh? But it was, really good, right? Okay, look, I'll be real. Even if you somehow enjoyed my half-jokes and barely existent sense of knowing what I'm doing making videos, my explanation of this series could not possibly do the same justice as watching the thing for real. So even though I literally just spoiled the entire thing, I do recommend that if you didn't at the start, you go watch it now. Again, it's only 30 minutes, and it's well worth the time. If you still don't want to listen to me, then hey, no hard feelings. When horror YouTubers tell me to watch the full thing first, I never watch them, and I'm in no place to try to tell you how to spend your time. But still, I'd highly recommend checking out the full thing. Now, if you've come here expecting me to start spitting out theories about how this is secretly in the MCU, and Doctor Strange is to blame for the time loop, or how the original Masked Man was secretly Bob the Builder the whole time, then sorry, but you've come to the wrong video, and I apologize for wasting your time. This wasn't a video to explain what's going on, this all seems pretty cut and dry, at least to me, but rather to just get more people seeing the series. It's genuinely something to behold in my opinion, and it's a damn shame not many seem to know of it. And frankly, that this video probably isn't gonna help spread the word all too much. But hey, if you did come here looking for theories and are mad at me, then might I suggest the video that initially brought this series to my attention, the one made by horror YouTuber HannahtheHorrible, who despite her name, makes very good videos on all sorts of horror topics. Her main forte is true horror stuff, but she semi-recently made a video about No Through Road, and in that one, she actually does talk about some theories. I'll leave a link to that one in the description, as well as a link to a playlist for the full series for those who want to check it out. Alright, that's all I got for y'all today, so I think, in the spirit of Halloween, I'll take a late night walk. As always, if it's your birthday today, then hey, happy birthday. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Catch you on the flip side. Peace out.
hold on a minute.